Okay, everybody, we're back. No nets, no retakes. I'm going to shoot from the hip on this. So I want to talk about Tony Tate. I've been getting a lot of requests. I've talked about Tate several times. On the last A&E special I did, they cut out a lot of the stuff about Tony Tate. So I just want to kind of review because, like I said, I got a lot of stuff on my Gmail about it. And if you want something, keep in mind it's got to have an impact that will reach everybody, not just one or two individuals. So if you ask me about an obscure member, I certainly may have known them and interacted with them, but need to stick with people that are maybe familiar with or should be familiar with. So here we go. So I'm going back to November 9th, 1987. And Animal, David Ortega, and myself, we're talking in the Ventura Clubhouse, and we're talking about Tony Tate. And, I expressed the Animal because they're both from Alaska. You know what, this guy Tate's no good. I talk about how he conducts himself and what he's going on. David puts his 2 cents in. Of course, everybody knows David's opinion of Tony Tate was he just didn't like the way he parted his hair. But as West Coast Sergeant at Arms, Tate's been speaking out of turn, like in the meetings. I've kind of had it with him. He wants us to blow up the outlaws, and I've been dead set against it. And he also came to my trial, my murder for hire trial, and was asking a lot of stupid questions that really made me suspect of him when I, got my not guilty and got home. So we basically tell Animal, if Alaska doesn't deal with this guy, we're going to do it. And this conversation took place in the Ventura Clubhouse. So later that night, I left for New York City. We had the last Operation Rough Rider case going to trial, and that was with New York member Brendan. Unfortunately, we lost the case. But as I deplaned from the airplane, I found out that Tate had been exposed as a rat. They had raided everybody. I think there was 38 people arrested. And I was very concerned that the Ventura Clubhouse was possibly bugged. What had happened was we had that conversation in there, and then the next morning as I get off the plane, it had been exposed that he was an informant, and I was very suspicious. I started thinking, Jesus Christ, the clubhouse is bugged. I called home. Nobody in Ventura had been raided, but I just had this really bad feeling what was going to transpire was not going to be good. I'll get into that in a minute. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to go back to the first time Tony and I butted heads. And that was in New York City at the Limelight. We were doing a benefit for Operation Rough Rider. Myself, along with several other members, were in Joan Chet's dressing room. And as she prepared to go on, her manager asked if we could all leave and give Joan some time to herself to kind of get grounded and get ready. Tate really took exception to this. He started talking shit to Joan Jett's manager. I actually thought he was going to touch him up a little bit. Tate and I went in the hallway and we were going back and forth. And, I've said it before. For the guy's benefit, I've got to say, he didn't back down from me. He held his ground. And just as we were about getting ready to hook it up, Joan exited the dressing room and defused the whole situation. We all followed her onto the stage where she went and performed. But him and I never settled it. I came home. He went back to Alaska. But a few weeks later, he shows up in Ventura. And it was interesting. David and I were in the clubhouse, and he walks up to, confront me or whatever. And David said, "Hey, look who's here." And I'll never forget this. David said, "Do you want me to pick a fight with him?" And I was laughing. I thought to myself, well, I'll fight my own fights, Dave. But he came in there, said he wanted to apologize. He realized what he did was out of control and, inappropriate. And as he finished the conversation and the apology, he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm in a bad way. I need some narcotics. Can you help me out?" He goes, "I need to buy a couple of pounds of crank." I shut him down. I told him I wasn't a drug dealer. I wasn't going to start for him, and I had no interest in putting him in touch with anybody. Uh, he left town immediately after that. I got a hold of everyone in the charter. I told them to stand down on this guy for good. Don't ever do anything with him. I know the guy's bad. And he went down to San Bernardino, and he got Art to sell him I think it was a couple of pounds of crank. Certainly, Art never had to answer for it because Art got murdered down there in Long Beach at the Queen Mary. This was sometime after the bust. But in the meantime, I guess the feds tell Tony, you got to go back and you got to try to make it right with George one last time. So he comes again and apologizes for a second time for his behavior, asking me to sell him narcotics. And he said, "Look, George, why don't we ride up together in my car to the OM? I get to know you, you can get to know me." I had real reservations about it. He made me uncomfortable, real prickly feeling around the guy. But he talked me into it, and which you have to understand, the car was wired, and the feds were behind us, following us the whole way up Highway 101. And they went up 101 because I found out many years later that the air conditioner had gone out in the FBI's car, and they didn't want him to go 5, they wanted him to go 101. He gave me this big line of crap about one of his favorite roads and all this crap. But, I get in the car, we head out. I couldn't have been more than up in Santa Barbara. And, he lays this big question on me. "Hey, George, you remember so-and-so?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, the guy had gone missing. And he goes, "He's missing." I said, "Yeah, I heard. I'm being somewhat downplaying it." And he goes, "I killed him. And I cut his head off. And I stuck it in a box and had him take a ride with me." And he was laughing and thought it was very funny. And I just looked at him and I said, "Hey, Tate, what kind of question is that? You don't ask somebody if they ever killed anybody." And the investigation at this time was kind of coming to an end. And as investigations go, they had 2 more targets. They had Sonny Barger, of course, and myself. And, basically it was one conversation and they had, 2 outcomes. Sonny had been engaging in conversation with Tate, but I guess they didn't have exactly what they wanted. That particular afternoon, it was an officers' meeting. Tate shows up at the officers' meeting with a bug in his cast. Wants to blow up the outlaws, tries to drag everybody in the room into this conspiracy. I basically shut him down, and he leaves the meeting, goes out to his FBI handlers. They send him to Sonny's house, and he gets basically what he needs to get from Sonny to end the investigation. Sonny tells him that he is the future of the club. And this is what I've never heard the tape, but I'm told that on this tape, and the feds got a big kick out of this because, here you got an informant and you've got Sonny Barger telling him, you're the future of the club. But, Sonny's position was make the explosion big. Lots of collateral damage is a good thing. It'll teach anybody to hang out with the outlaws. My position was I'm not sending anybody else to jail or to the graveyard. So, one conversation, 2 different outcomes. What Tate got was $300,000 for informing at that particular point in time. And in today's money, that's close to $1 million. So, Tate had a pretty good payday. Tate was pretty effective as an informant. With the exception of young Mike, who was an Oakland member. They got a mistrial because Tate lied about his drug use. He liked to use cocaine all the time, and he lied under oath, and they found out. So that was kind of the end of that whole mess. Now, Sonny leaves for prison with the shadow over his reputation because of the way he handled Irish's death with the AB. I'm not going to get into that today. This is just kind of a short version. But I will tell you this. When Sonny left, it was like removing a stone in my shoe. And I'll tell you, within a couple of years, the Hells Angels had a moratorium on violence with the Outlaws, the Banditos, the Mongols. We'd had a couple of negotiations with the Pagans. They didn't go anywhere, but the rest of these clubs, everything seemed to be fine. Sonny was gone till 1995, and when he returned, things didn't seem the same for him. And I'll get into that in the future. He, not long after he came back, started pushing for the Dirty Dozen to become Hells Angels. And, he pulled up stakes and went to Arizona, which was a very ballsy move. But, that's kind of a update on Tony Tate for anybody that hasn't had much experience with him. You can see the A&E series, but like I said, they chopped out a lot of the stuff. I think I made it very clear on Outlaw Chronicles how we all felt about Tony Tate, and I'm going to tell you my personal feeling about Tony Tate. Tony Tate was a traitor, an informant. He was a coward. He wasn't that spectacular. What happened was the people that busted themselves because they trusted in Tate. They thought he was a brother, but he was an informant that had his own agenda, and all he cared about was himself. So sometimes people get confused. They go, well, why would you interview a guy like Jay Dobbins? Jay Dobbins was a cop, He was doing a job. That's his oath. Our oath was to hold up what we believed in. His oath was to hold up what he and his fellow officers believed in. But Tony Tate was just a rat. He was a coward. He was an informant. He came with the intent to hurt us because he thought ultimately he would get a book, a movie deal, and God knows what else. But pretty much what he's done is drifted off into obscurity. And in a sense, when members talk about him, I guess we rejuvenate his life. But I'm more than happy to talk about what a coward and traitor he always was. So that's it on Tony Tate. I'll see you all next week. You want to talk to me, send me something to my Gmail. That's it. Talk to you later.